Have you ever had this feeling that all those ancient stories, the myths about heroes and monsters, are way more than just fairy tales? What if they're not just stories, but a kind of blueprint, a living map of a journey that's happening inside your own mind, right now? Okay, let's get into this, because according to Carl Jung, this isn't fiction. This is the language of the human psyche. So Jung had this core idea that beneath our regular, everyday awareness, there's this vast, totally unexplored territory, the unconscious. And this quote here, man, it just nails his perspective. He didn't see it as some creepy basement you should be afraid of. No way. He saw it as an inner cosmos, just packed with powerful, guiding forces, as natural and as immense as the night sky itself. And that brings us to this really fascinating question, right? Why on earth do the stories of ancient heroes, dragons, and epic trials just pop into the dreams of regular modern people? What is this ancient pattern doing inside our 21st century heads? Well, that's the exact mystery we're going to try and unravel today. So to start, we have to look at how these universal patterns are being found everywhere. We're talking archaeologists, historians, anthropologists. They're all digging up the same fundamental stories, whether they're carved in stone or being acted out in the rituals of some remote tribe. And here's the really wild part, how consistent it is. We're talking about stories from the ancient Greeks, from North American Indian tribes, from African societies, groups that were separated by oceans and centuries. They had absolutely no contact, and yet they all tell this strikingly similar story, the story of the hero. And this story, it follows a very specific script. You can see it laid out here. It usually starts with a miraculous but kind of humble birth. Then the hero shows some early signs of being way more than human. They rise to power super fast, and they beat some great evil. But then comes the big turn. The hero falls victim to hubris, that dangerous, over-the-top pride, and that leads to their downfall, which often ends in a big sacrificial death. This isn't just one story, you see. It's a universal pattern. Okay, so if this pattern is literally everywhere, what's it for? What's its psychological purpose? Well, that brings us to the first really crucial stage of this inner journey, building or forging the ego. So in Jungian terms, the hero isn't a literal person. It's what he called an archetype. It's a symbolic force that lives inside all of us. And its job is to help our conscious self, our ego, break away from the dependencies of childhood and really establish its own independent identity out in the world. It's the story of becoming your own person. This ancient symbol, it captures that drive just perfectly. The hero represents the psyche's powerful, built-in desire to move out of that dark, blurry world of the unconscious and step into the light of conscious awareness. It's that part of us that wants to see, to know, and to act in the world on purpose. And here's the bottom line. The hero archetype is what gives us the psychic energy to face life's challenges. It's that inner fire that pushes us to finish school, or maybe overcome an addiction, or just to stand on our own 2 feet. It's fighting that constant little pull to go back to the comfort of being taken care of, and it shoots us forward into the world. But what happens when the very thing that made you strong becomes your biggest problem? This is where we hit the great turning point in the journey, the ordeal of initiation. I mean, this is the classic trap of the hero, isn't it? That confidence you needed to succeed starts to inflate. It becomes this dangerous pride, this feeling that you're invincible, that you know better than everyone. That's hubris. And that's the exact moment the psyche goes, all right, time for a test. A trial of strength becomes a trial of character. And get this, we can actually see this playing out inside our own minds. As it says here, one of the most common themes in the dreams of young people is exactly this, an ordeal, a test, an initiation. Jung would say these aren't just random stress dreams. They're your own psyche running this ancient program, trying to push you toward a new level of maturity. Let's look at a real-world example from Jung's work. A young man, let's call him Henry, dreamed he had to cross this super treacherous mountain pass, a classic symbol for a huge life change. After a short rest, he realized he had to face it completely alone, leaving all his supplies behind. The key here, the essential part, is that the test had to be conquered by him, all by himself. It was his personal initiation. And passing that test, that initiation, it leads to the most profound and maybe the most difficult lesson of the entire journey, the absolute necessity of sacrifice.
And here it is. This is the great paradox. After all that time and all that work building up this strong, heroic ego, real maturity means you have to let it go. It's not about becoming an even bigger, better hero. It's about realizing that you are so much more than just the hero.
And these two images here, they illustrate the shift perfectly. Just look at the image on the left. Classic hero, right? Locked in this epic external battle. That's the first half of life. But the painting on the right, the Isle of the Dead, it gives off a totally different vibe. It's a quiet, inward journey to some mysterious center. The focus shifts from conquering the world outside to understanding the world inside. And that's why the hero's fall or death in all those myths isn't really a tragedy, not in a psychological sense. It's the necessary sacrifice of that all-powerful, all-knowing ego. This symbolic death makes room for a relationship with your entire psyche, with a more complete, more authentic sense of yourself. And that is the real victory.
So what does this all mean for us right now? Well, this whole journey isn't just some abstract theory. It's actually a practical map for navigating our own lives. You see, Jung saw life in two distinct halves. The first half is the hero's journey. The job is to build a strong ego, learn some skills, and find your place in the world. But the second half of life, what you could call the sage's journey, it has a totally new task: to move beyond the hero and connect that ego to the bigger picture, the total self. The hero gets you on the road, but the destination is wholeness. So in the end, this ancient story is anything but ancient. It's a dynamic, living map of psychological growth that is unfolding inside you as we speak. So the only real question is, are you building your strength? Are you facing your ordeal? Or are you learning what has to be sacrificed to become whole? Where on that map are you?